Ever get hit with that craving for something, like comforting,
Yeah.
familiar, maybe even a little bit nostalgic?
Mhm.
Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today.
Okay.
Silesian dumplings.
Interesting.
And trust me, this is about way more than just like boiling up some dough, right? We're talking about a dish that's woven into the fabric of a whole region with a history just as rich as those fillings.
What I find so captivating about Silesian dumplings is they're like these edible time capsules.
Oh, I like that.
Silesia itself, which is nestled right in Central Europe, has been this crossroads of cultures for like centuries. We're talking ancient Slavic roots, influences from the Teutonic Knights, periods of Germanic and Polish rule.
Wow.
So just imagine the culinary exchange happening at that crossroads.
So each bite is like a taste of history then.
Precisely.
Okay, now you got me really intrigued.
Think about it. The blog post even mentioned these dumplings potentially dating back to the 16th century.
Mm-hmm.
That's when those German settlers were really making their mark on Silesian culture.
Right.
So could they have brought their own dumpling traditions with them?
That's fascinating.
Maybe even like a precursor to the Silesian dumpling we know today.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to consider.
Okay, so you've got these German settlers potentially bringing their dumplings into the mix.
Right?
But then you've also got Silesia, which has those like really strong Polish influences as well.
Mm-hmm.
So do those two culinary worlds like collide in this dumpling?
Absolutely. I mean, picture this. You've got your simple German potato dumpling, right? Hearty filling.
Yeah.
Now introduce this Polish love for those richer flavors, fresh cheeses.
Okay.
Could that be how the iconic Silesian dumpling filling, with its savory pork, the onion, a touch of garlic, and that tangy farmer's cheese came to be? We may never know for sure,
Right.
but it paints such a vivid picture of culinary fusion.
It really does. And speaking of that farmer's cheese, I have to admit, that's not something I'm like super familiar with. What makes it so unique?
Farmer's cheese, which you might also see called dry cottage cheese, brings this like wonderful tanginess.
Okay.
It balances out the richness of the pork, that sweetness from the sautéed onions. It's a total staple in a lot of Eastern European cuisines and just adds this wonderfully fresh, almost spring-like flavor to the dumplings.
Okay, now you're making my mouth water just hearing about it. So the blog post gave this like really detailed recipe. And one thing that really stood out to me was using warm water for the dough.
Interesting.
Is that like a Silesian secret for dumpling greatness?
It's a trick you'll find in a lot of dumpling traditions, actually, and it all comes down to texture.
Okay.
So warm water, it helps activate the gluten in the flour a bit differently than if you were to use cold water.
Mm-hmm.
And that creates a dough that's like lighter, fluffier. Imagine biting into a dense, chewy dumpling.
Oh, no.
Not exactly what you want.
No, not at all.
The warm water, it ensures that signature, delicate, almost melt-in-your-mouth texture that Silesian dumplings are known for.
Yeah.
So it's like the difference between like a fluffy cloud and then a
rain cloud.
Yeah, a rain cloud. I'll work on my analogies.
Yeah.
But the point is, texture is key, right?
Absolutely.
And just based on this recipe, getting that filling just right seems equally important.
Oh, absolutely. And what I love about the traditional Silesian filling is its simplicity. You've got your base, which is your ground pork, your finely diced onion, that touch of garlic for depth, and of course the indispensable farmer's cheese.
And of course.
Right. And then just that sprinkle of fresh parsley just to brighten everything up at the end. It's about achieving that harmony in every single bite.
Yeah, yeah.
Right,
It's like, it reminds me of something my grandma always used to say. Too much of a good thing.
Is, well, too much.
Exactly.
I can practically hear her saying it.
But she was right, you know? It's that delicate balance in the Silesian dumpling filling that really makes it so special.
Yeah. Speaking of balance, the blog post also like kind of dove into some modern twists on this traditional recipe.
Okay.
And let's just say the comments section, it was fired up.
Oh, yeah. I remember that. It was like watching a culinary showdown unfold.
Right.
You had Caden on the one side, a self-proclaimed foodie adventurer who was all about, you know, adding things like smoky bacon or a sharp cheddar to the dumplings.
Right. Like Team Bacon makes everything better.
Exactly.
I have to admit, I kind of see the appeal.
Right.
But then you had Jonah holding down the fort for Team Tradition, comparing adding these modern ingredients to, well, musical blasphemy, basically.
Right. Jonah was like adamant that like messing with a classic recipe was like, as he put it, asking Mozart to play heavy metal.
Wow.
Which, I mean, surprisingly insightful analogy.
Yeah.
He was arguing that these recipes are like time capsules, preserving not just like flavors, but actual memories, traditions. To change them too much, in his view, was risking losing that connection to the past.
Yeah, I could appreciate that perspective.
Yeah.
There's definitely something to be said for like preserving those culinary traditions that have been passed down like through generations. But then there's that like adventurous side of me that says,
Yeah.
why not try a little smoked paprika in that filling?
Right.
It's a tough call.
It is, isn't it? And this debate, it extends so far beyond just dumplings,
Totally.
It speaks to like a larger question about how we navigate tradition and innovation, especially in like a rapidly changing world.
Yeah.
How do we hold on to these things that connect us to our past while still allowing for, creativity and evolution?
Exactly. And it's not just about the food either, right?
Right.
Think about it. Music, fashion, even language. I mean, they're all constantly evolving, borrowing from different cultures, time periods. But there's always that push and pull between preserving those classics,
Yeah.
and then embracing the new.
You hit the nail on the head. And what I find so fascinating is that there's no one right answer.
Right.
It's about finding that sweet spot
Right.
between honoring the past, but also embracing the present.
Yeah.
And that looks different for everyone.
It does. It really makes you think about what future generations are going to consider. Like traditional, though.
Right.
Will our grandkids be like adding sriracha to their Silesian dumplings and calling it a family recipe?
That's a thought. But in all seriousness, one commenter, Angel, brought up a really interesting point about using, like modern technology to actually preserve traditional recipes.
Oh, okay.
Think about it. Freeze drying, sous vide cooking.
Right.
These could be ways to capture those authentic flavors, those techniques, even for future generations.
It's like we're creating these culinary time capsules.
Yeah.
But instead of burying them in the backyard, we can just like pop them in the freezer.
Exactly.
Although I'm not sure my grandma's freezer would have been big enough to hold like all of her amazing recipes.
Right.
She always said that she kept them all, up here. And she'd tap her forehead with a wink.
Oh, the best kind.
Right.
That's how you know it's a real family treasure.
Right.
A recipe passed down like through generations, each one adding their own little touch.
Yeah.
And that actually brings us back to something like really important that we saw. The comments from listeners like Rachel, I think it was Rachel who talked about all those regional variations on even the Silesian dumpling.
Right.
And it just highlights how food, it connects us to our own histories.
It really does.
Our families, our communities.
It does make you wonder what our culinary legacy is going to be. Will our kids be like reminiscing about, our famous sriracha dumplings?
Maybe. But, even beyond like those specific ingredients, what's really important is that we're continuing those traditions, Yeah.
Gathering around the table, sharing stories. And of course, delicious food. Whether it's, a centuries-old dumpling recipe or, a brand new culinary creation, it's that act of sharing, that connection that really matters.
So it's about keeping those culinary conversations going.
Absolutely.
Right. Experimenting, adapting, maybe even, debating along the way.
Of course. And who knows, maybe our experience will become someone else's traditions, right?
Yeah, that's a delicious thought. So as we kind of wrap up our deep dive into this world of Silesian dumplings, we want to leave you with this. What are the dumplings in your own life?
Ooh.
What dish, what recipe, what culinary tradition makes you feel connected to your own history?
Yeah.
What are those things that bring back those memories?
Take some time to explore those culinary roots, right?
Yeah.
Maybe dust off that old family recipe book, see what stories unfold. You might be surprised at the fascinating history and like personal connections that you find. Yeah, maybe simmering right there beneath the surface.
Exactly.
Well, and hey, if you're feeling adventurous, why not try your hand at making some Silesian dumplings yourself?
Right.
We'll even we'll make sure to leave a link to that blog post in the show notes. Until next time, happy cooking, everybody.
Happy cooking.